Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. We are delighted to have Kieran Gibbs with us in the studio tonight. We have Steve Nicol back as well and Shaka Hislop. Just happy about these two.
I don't go too overboard on me and Shaq.
It is a big weekend of action, especially in cup action. It is the Manchester derby in the FA Cup final coming up this weekend. They're meeting in this final for the first ever time. City on course for the treble. United out to take another cup trophy this season. Let's now welcome in Ian Darke as well. Ian, great to have you with us. Let's talk a little bit about Pep saying that, Ten Hag saying that it's not about stopping City in their tracks. They want to win as well. Of course they do, but it's got to be an added motivation for his players.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think you've got to understand that the wider story of the Manchester derby, I mean, it's amazing that they've never met in an FA Cup final. But when you think of it, in the Sir Alex Ferguson years, United were way, way ahead of Manchester City. They were playing in the third tier, for goodness sake, at one stage. It's all turned around, of course, in the last decade, and it's United, although they still have the fame and they're rich and world famous, but it's Manchester City who are producing the results and winning titles on the pitch far more now. So United, it means a lot to them, I think. Whatever Eric Ten Hag says, their fans, they want to stop Manchester City emulating their 1999 treble. So that is a factor, I think, for the fans more than the players. I think it'll be quite a tight game. I mean, United, they lost 6-3 in the first meeting this season. The second game, though, United scored a couple of late goals and beat City 2-1. OK, there was very controversial offside one. But, you know, they kept a clean sheet too against Brighton in the semi. They're primed for this. I see City may be prevailing, but maybe after extra time.
United really want this one, Kieran, given the fact as well, especially that it's against Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as FA Cup finals go, this is right up there. You know, two Manchester juggernauts going at it. And there's just a lot on the line for both teams. But I think for Ten Hag, especially, I mean, you know, if he manages to win this, he's nicked 2 trophies and made the top 4 this season. So I think with that in mind, he'll be raring to go for this one.
So I think this is a free run for United. Doesn't mean I think United's going to win, but I just think that it could be tighter than we think.
A free hit, Shaka.
Absolutely it is. Listen, I think Manchester United have exceeded all expectations, or maybe to the point. Eric Ten Hag has exceeded all expectations given the start he had to this season. As Kieran said, has already got silverware in the trophy cabinet, finished top 4. And now a one-off game against Manchester City to stop them from equaling their record of the treble in that 98-99 season. I don't think the motivations for Manchester United get any bigger. Given that treble, given the fact that it's a final, it's a derby, and then kind of given the contrasting styles of these two teams. Manchester City want to control the ball, have possession, they play up the park. And I think Manchester United, when they've shown themselves at their best, are a very good counter-attacking team. So that kind of plays off against each other. And as everybody keeps saying, it's a one-off game. It's 90 minutes or 120 minutes, whatever it may take. So it's far more difficult to call, far more difficult than the odds would suggest. 2-7 for Manchester City. As much as I see City as favourites, and I think they win it, there's no way I see them as 2-7 favourites on. Not against this version of United, not with everything at stake.
Ian, no Anthony Martial, no Anthony either. How do you see United lining up?
Well, I'll be intrigued to see what the lineup is. I wonder whether he might find a role for Fred, who hasn't started that much. He did in the last game. That is a lineup that I've given, but I'm thinking he probably won't pick Garnacho. But, you know, United are not going to have a lot of the ball, as the guys have been saying there. And they're going to have to do it, if they do it, with very quick counter-attacks. And that will involve Fernandes getting on the ball and quickly getting Rashford and maybe Garnacho if he plays and Sancho into attacking areas. So that is the way United will have to do it. I'd tend to take a punt myself if I was Eric Ten Hag on Garnacho because he could trouble the City defenders. But I have a hunch he may play Fred instead and look to just have an extra man biting into the challenges and breaking up City's play in the middle of the pitch.
Kieran, do you think Martial and Anthony will be a miss in this side for this game?
I do, but like he said, I think that they're not going to have much of the ball anyway. And the problem with City is that, you know, the room for error is just so small. I recall the Arsenal game at the Etihad, and they've launched the ball from pretty much their goal line, and the ball's in the back of the net within 10 seconds, you know, in the first 5 minutes, just from De Bruyne running off the midfield. And I feel like with United, that could be their biggest issue is, you know, if you switch off for 1 second, you're going to get punished. And I think that United, they have that in their locker. They have players in the team that can switch off. And I think that's going to be their biggest issue.
But to that point, I think Anthony and Martial are most guilty of switching off. And so I honestly don't see it as that being that big a miss. I've been very critical of Anthony all season long, and he's had flashes, but for me, far too inconsistent. Similarly with Martial. And if we are talking about two players, if we're talking about players not switching off for that 90 or 120 minutes, if we're talking about players who you know are going to do that job defensively, coming back from attacking positions, I'm not sure that those are the two players you rely on. And so, again, given the opposition, if we were talking about somebody else up against Manchester United, maybe I'd say something different about those two players missing. But given that it's City, given what we expect from them, I don't see either of them as being a big miss.
They're going to need
This is a strange one.
Go on then.
Well, because I don't particularly rate Martial or Anthony. I don't. But when they play, the shape of Man United is better. Man United's shape is better with Rashford on the left and Fernandes in the middle of the field. So the fact that they're not playing has got nothing to do with their particular individual form or ability. I think it's going to be the shape that's going to hurt United. Because if you've got to shove Fernandes wide and you've got to shove Rashford up the top, I think you're pushing two of your most important players out of the positions that actually make them the players they are. So for that reason, they'll miss them. Not as individuals, for the shape though. Yeah.
I'm going to come to you, Shaka. Pep Guardiola has said that he's going to be playing Stefan Ortega in goal. What do you think of that?
You know, I'm really torn on this. And you've seen more and more managers do that far more consistently. And I've sat here in the past and said, listen, you play one goalkeeper through the majority of the tournament or all of the tournament, you play him in the final. You reward him with that starting position in the final. I also understand the counter-argument that you play your best team. You get to the final, regardless of what went before, all that matters is winning it. I still feel that it's better, certainly for the long term, in terms of how you treat and respect players, to play who got you there. And unless an injury disrupts that, I stick with Ortega.
You stick with him. There's a treble on the line, Stevie. You're shaking your head.
Absolutely. It's about winning. Listen, the coach has got a responsibility to the owners, to the club, to the fans, and to the city, but certainly the blue side of Manchester. That doesn't mean you go all soft and, well, he's played all the games, so he's going to play in the final. No, you've got to be man enough as a player when it comes to the bottom line that you're not playing because you're not the best in that position and not go in the huffy puff. The manager has to pick the best team to win the game, to win the final. 100%. There shouldn't be any discussion about this. And as I said, as upset or disappointed as Ortega might have been if he isn't playing, then you know what? You've got to take it on the chin. You know what? Get better. Get Edison out. Then he's the one that's going to be sitting. That's how it works. That's how it should work. And when it comes to a final, that's how it has to work.
Do you agree, Kieran?
I have to agree with Stevie on this one.
You don't have to. You don't have to agree.
Yes, you do. Don't listen to him.
Full-back union.
That's what it is.
The magnitude of the game is just, you know, because it's City, you don't want them lifting the treble as a United fan. And you want to play your best players. I played in Carling Cup. It was called the Carling Cup at the time, but all the way through up until the second leg of the semi-finals, and although we lost the final, you know, he went for his strongest team. And to be honest, I have to agree. Like with Steve, I had to sit there and say, okay, as a team, we want to achieve things, And he wants to play the players that have played the most minutes this season, that have got the most experience, and the team that he believes that can get the job done at that time. And so, as a player, you have to take it on the chin.
Let's talk about the City 11 then, if we can, Ian, because a week after this final, they obviously have the Champions League final coming up. Does that factor into this 11?
I think not. He gave them all a couple of days off, and I think he's got his best 11 primed to play in both of the games, goalkeeper aside. I actually tend to side with Shaka about this. It isn't like Ortega has looked like a weak link when he's played. Here's something. We talk all about Manchester City's goals. They haven't conceded a single goal yet with Ortega in the FA Cup run this season. So he's played okay. So I don't think it's like it's a very, very weak second string. But the rest of the team, I think, will be exactly like that. And the 10 outfield players are the players who played so superbly to absolutely demolish Real Madrid in that Champions League game that ended 4-0. So, I mean, you've seen Pep in the FA Cup. He takes it seriously every time. He's going to take it doubly seriously. Now it's a Manchester derby. I remember seeing one of the cup finals when they wiped out Watford 6-0 and they were ruthless.
I have to agree with Ian.
Oh, really?
That's what it is. I have to agree with Ian. See, Ian and I are the only two football romantics on this show. That's what it comes right down to.
That is what it comes down to.
But look at Mahrez, right? Mahrez scored a hat-trick in the semi-final. He's not even on the starting lineup.
Oh, that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't count. What does count is how you deal with Erling Haaland in this game. How are United's defence going to do that?
Good luck. And you know, drop off when you have to and keep a high line when you don't have to. The problem is that involves 2, 3 and 4 players, not just the 2 centre-backs that are going to be up against Haaland. So it's a tough job United are going to have, and there just is not an easy answer. It's not a straight answer.
And to that point, you spoke about Manchester United's shape. You tried to get fancy playing up against Haaland, who, for me, is the most complete striker the Premier League has ever seen. His pace and behind, his strength, his finishing, everything. He's just as complete as this game has seen. So to Stevie's point, when you plan out your strategy going into this game, the focus is not on Erling Haaland. It's on starving him with that supply. The trouble is, when you have the likes of Kevin De Bruyne and all that midfield that Pep Guardiola can call on, that's easier said than done. But that has to be a focus. How do you negate the effect of whoever he calls? How do you stop them being at their best? How do you stop them? How do you stop that service into Erling Haaland?
Is the hope for Manchester United, Kieran, that maybe Haaland will have his head in next weekend's final and not just this one?
No, Haaland's just not that guy. He's just not that guy. He's just so hungry. Every game, every minute, he is looking to score a goal. That's how he was born. He was born to do it. But yeah, Shaka's right. The supply is going to be key. You're talking about one of the most prolific strikers, in the world right now. But you're also talking about some of the most prolific suppliers of the game around him. So that's why it's just going to be so difficult. I feel like United, the biggest thing that they can probably work on is the way they press from the front to actually stop it from source. But then again, they can play straight into the third line, and that's the problem you have. As soon as you try to press them and stop them from the front, they have the ability to go straight up to Haaland, and there's runners off of him, and it's just trouble all round. We had a lot riding on it. It was more of a weight off of the shoulder, especially after going 2-0 down, which we made a meal of it. But I think, we couldn't really enjoy it until, well, me personally, I couldn't really enjoy it until a few days had passed. It was more of a relief than anything. And then obviously, as the further FA Cups came, could enjoy it a little bit more.
Bruno's just said there that he thinks it will help them take a next step, the next level next season, just getting this FA Cup as well under their belts. What do you think it will do for this United side if they can do that?
I think it will give them confidence, but I think the biggest thing it will probably do is give Ten Hag, the respect. I mean, I think he's already got that from what he's managed to do with the team this season. I think he's squeezed out everything he can from that team. I think he doesn't have his personnel fully that he wants yet, but I think he's this will give him that extra amount of respect from the fans for obviously stopping City winning the treble. I think that will really cement his place, you know, from the board, from the fans, to say, okay, you know, you've turned up now. Let's see what you can do with a full pre-season, a full transfer window, another transfer window, and I really like him. So I think that Bruno's right. I think that if they win this, it will really set them up nicely for next season.
Big selling point when you're talking to any players. By the way, we won 2 trophies last year, and we won the FA Cup final, and we beat Manchester City, who people said were the best team on the planet. This place, I mean, it's just a selling point, a huge selling point for any player that may be swaying, whether it's Man United or anybody else. So it's huge.
I think to that point, you're absolutely right. I think to that point, yes, Manchester United have already won one trophy in one cup, albeit the less of the two in English football. And then Man City oddly got knocked out from Southampton. And I just feel that Manchester United knocking everybody's favourites out for every competition they ever seem to enter into adds to what already winning one trophy does, adds to what finishing top 4 already does for Manchester United. And again, just kind of shows that improvement under Ten Hag, who, I'm with Kieran, has done a wonderful job thus far. But to beat City in a final, to deny them their chance at history as well, I think ticks so many boxes for Manchester United.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.